Hello and welcome to the Joe Cortez Show here in Las Vegas, Nevada, the entertainment capital of the world. And sometimes I got to say the food capital as well, because the guest that we have on today is a very special guest, a very special friend of mine for many years. And he has a restaurant called My Mother's House. It's in Sun City here in Las Vegas. It's off the strip, but people from the strip go to this location because they want to make sure that they come to Las Vegas, they go to My Mother's House. Mike Leonard, welcome to the show, buddy.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, my buddy. Always a pleasure.
Same here.
I brought you a meatball sandwich. It's in the back, so after the show, you can eat it.
Okay, guys, that's not all. You should see the food in that restaurant. You should taste it. It's unbelievable. Mike, you have My Mother's House restaurant, Italian restaurant. How do you come up with that concept?
Well, it was my family, because they're all gone. And what I wanted to do, Joe, is to honor them, because my grandmother was the one that really raised me. And I love to cook so much. All my aunts and my uncles, I watched them. Today they got kids doing TV shows, but back in the 50s, you know, it wasn't fashionable. Some kids played baseball. I was in the kitchen with my grandmother rolling meatballs.
And I was doing the boxing.
That's the key. And that's why I came up with My Mother's House. I could have named it after me, but every Italian restaurant, you always have so many names, and people walk out the door and say, what was that name of that restaurant? Leah something, I can't remember. But My Mother's House, you never forget.
Never forget that one. And you never forget it. Once you go there, you definitely will never forget it, because I've been there so many times, and the entertainment that's there. I mean, do you any supper club in Las Vegas? Can you tell us a little bit about your entertainment that goes on with the restaurant?
Well, I came to Vegas in '72. I had my hit record, and that kind of launched me of what I wanted to do, and I've been in Vegas ever since. And those days, in between shows, I cooked at the place called the Tower of Pizza, Gus Gallo's. These were places where most of the guys I cooked for are long gone right now, so I can mention their name.
Okay.
I can mention their name. And it was a great time. And I cooked for Liberace and Henry Mancini, Donald O'Connor, Don Rickles, all of them. You know, I was very fortunate to do that. Liberace, believe it or not, was one of my best customers, because I used to make a spinach pie, a special pie for him. And those days it was $45, which was a lot of money those days. We'll go back 1974, 75. And the Tower of Pizza was right across the street from the Aladdin Hotel. It was open 7 days a week, 24 hours a day.
Right.
I don't know if you were in town at that time in the early 70s.
No, I got here in '92.
Yeah. But, and I remember Vegas, because when you look at the strip, you had the Thunderbird, you had the Sahara, and then as you went down, then the last was the Hacienda, was all the way down. And then the Marina Hotel, that was one of the spots that I played, which is now MGM Grand.
How about the Landmark?
Landmark was off the strip. That was down.
Okay.
But the Landmark was there, and actually had the Las Vegas Hilton Hotel. And it was a place I used to eat all the time. It was, for the people that are watching in TV land, it was a German restaurant, and it was across from the Hilton. And the food was just unbelievable. It had Sauerbraten and Schweinbraten. You know, it was a German restaurant. And we used to go downstairs to the Roskella room, and they used to have peanuts, and they would eat the peanuts, and they throw the shells on the floor.
Now you came up with the Italian restaurant, and you decided to do it off the strip. You know, that was a big gamble. Talking about a gambling town, that was a big gamble to put it off the strip like you have now. And so popular.
Well, there were 7 restaurants that opened. They didn't last 6 months because it's in a senior community. They had Greek restaurants. They had every restaurant but Italian. So when I looked at this place, you know, and I'll be honest, it was $1 million investment. And I said to my wife, I says, you know something? There's a saying in the Bible, when God is for you, who could be against you? And we took a shot, and we put everything that we owned and what we had and what we believed in, and we weathered the storm, especially with the pandemic that hit. Even with the pandemic, we were sold out. It's incredible. People were still wanting to come into that place. You know, not that they had to wear the mask and, you know, the distance that we had to go against. And I kept the band working because those guys are under 1099s.
Right.
All right? When we got the stimulus money from the government, you know, like all the restaurants did, I couldn't give them any of that money. Only the people that were employees.
Right.
These guys are employees, but they're 1099s. My wife and I, we took $25,000, stuck it on the side, and I kept them guys working. I was the only show in Vegas that had entertainment 5 nights a week because I close on Monday and Tuesday.
Right.
And people ask me why. Because I don't want to be the richest guy in the cemetery.
Sure.
Take a break.
Yeah. Now, which is your specialty at your restaurant? I know everything is good, but which is your specialty?
Well, if you're a seafood lover, the ultimate dish is the frutti di mare. Now, what that means, frutti di mare, fruit of the sea. It's Alaskan king crab, mussels, clams, shrimp. 3 pounds of crab, 3 pounds of mussels, 3 pounds of shrimp, 3 pounds of the escargot, and then 2 pounds of linguine. The dish, with no exaggeration, I don't know if you can see this on TV, it's about this big and that high. It's for 6 people. And I've never seen anybody finish that dish. They all take food home. Now, when it comes to meat, now there's 2 meats I specialize in. My brisket. Okay, now brisket's really a Jewish dish, but the way I make it, because the people in Sun City, unfortunately, they can't chew, and they have to have meat. They got to have meat that melts in their mouth. It takes me 15 hours to make it. My brisket, and I say it on the menu, if you can't cut it with a spoon, I will pay for everybody's dinner at the table. Then the ultimate is the Cleopatra. When I was in Egypt many years ago, there's a stone that they cut the Great Pyramids with. That stone that I buy, I bake it in the oven for 5 hours to get 400 degrees. It's Kobe filet mignon. And I marinate it. My grandfather's Italian olive oil. And what's nice is that you cook that meat right at the table. And that meat will melt in your mouth like Holy Communion. Unless you're Jewish, and then we have to change the whole menu. But
okay, let me tell me about, the food is excellent. I mean, your grandmother was the cook in the family.
Oh, yeah.
What was that you picked up from her?
Well, you know, Joe, I love that old lady so much you could ever possibly imagine. At the age of 5, the Italians, for the people that are watching from that era, everybody cooked. The Italians, everyone seldom went out for dinner. Sunday was the day, and the minute that woman would make the meatballs, I would smell the meatballs cooking upstairs. I would run downstairs, and my grandmother would talk to me in Italian and tell me, help Grandma make the meatballs. Now, how you say meatballs if you go to Italy is a pupetta. A pupetta. That's how you say meatballs.
A pupetta.
A pupetta.
A pupetta.
And I learned from her, and it was a time, Joe, that was so beautiful, so wonderful. I lived in South Philadelphia. First of all, those days was very ethnic. If you were Italian, you lived in an Italian neighborhood.
Right.
Irish neighborhood. Jewish neighborhood. There was 300 houses. Okay? And the whole area we were at. Picture South Philly. I lived on Passyunk and more. Picture 300 houses on Sunday with their windows open and fans, and everybody made the same stuff. Everybody was frying meatballs and lasagna. The smell of that neighborhood was incredible. Yeah. But every meatball tasted different. Every lasagna tasted different. It was all good, just like Las Vegas. These restaurants in Vegas, they're all terrific. They're all wonderful people. But what I have is something completely different. Because I do the cooking, I make sure it's just the last of what Las Vegas used to be, entertainment, but mostly the food. Mostly the food. Because I'm the only restaurant that doesn't turn the tables. You say, what do you mean by that? I don't turn the tables. When you make a reservation, that is your table for tonight. Just like tonight. We are sold out tonight, sold out tomorrow, sold out. It's 3 weeks to get in my restaurant. 3 weeks in advance. But when you're there for the evening, 2-3 hours. Nobody stays at a restaurant for 3 hours. Unless you go to an Italian, some wedding, and then you'll stay that much time. But basically, this is what we do. And you've been there a million times, so you know.
Now, the food is great. And the entertainment, the entertainment really puts the frosting on the cake, because the entertainment that you have, you be the chef, that you're a great chef, but you're also an outstanding entertainer. Back in the days when you got here to Vegas, and you have famous singers like Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Don Rickles. You tell us a little bit of stories about these guys.
Well, when I had my hit record in '72, I tell us on stage, and you heard it, if I may say it.
Yeah, sure.
I had a hit record, and they stuck me. In those days, when Philadelphia, the right people were behind me, and they stick me in Las Vegas, Nevada, at the Sands, in the lounge. So I walked in, they said, Mr. Leonard, your dressing room is down to the left. As I opened up the door, they had the cutest little stove in the dressing room. So I seen it. It reminded me of my grandmother, naturally, being in my early 20s with lots of hair. I got very depressed. In those days, when you made a long-distance phone call, you had to, the person on the other end had to accept it. So I made the call, and my father answered the phone, and he said, "What's the matter, Mike?" I said, "Dad, I'm very unhappy." He says, "Why?" I said, I'm just depressed. I miss you and Mommy. I miss everybody. He said, listen to me. What have I taught you? When you're unhappy, eat a dish of macaroni, make you feel better. So I go to the store, I buy some tomato, garlic, and I decided to make a little sauce, marinara sauce. The people in TV land, you know it as marinara. But the Italians, we say marinara. I just put the pasta on the table, and I hear a knock on the door. I said, Maron, who could it be? I get up, I open up the door, it was Frank Sinatra. I'll never forget. He said, hey, kid, what are you doing? I said, I'm making a dish of macaroni. You hungry? He looked at me, he said, what'd you say to me? I just put the pasta on the table. Sit down and eat something. He was amazed that I talked to him like I'm talking to you. So he sits, he eats. He goes, my God, the food's delicious. Where's the phone? I said, it's in the corner. Now, Frank was in his mid-50s. I was in my early 20s. Because if Mr. Sinatra was living today, he would be over 100 years old. We have an image of this guy. Because me, today, I'm 70. Right. Believe it or not, I'm 70 years old today.
You look much younger than that.
I look 69 and a half. But thanks, Joe. So he walks over, he picks up the phone. He said, this is Mr. Sinatra. He said, give me Dean Martin's room. He said, Dean, do me a favor. I'm down in the dressing room just for a minute. You got to meet this kid. He cooks like my mother. The rest was history. So when anybody comes in a restaurant, you will see pictures of every major celebrity that I cooked for and performed for, which 90% of them are all gone. Some of them are still, Charo's still here. Wayne Newton is still here. A handful of people. Tony Orlando. But I performed, and I cooked through the Tower of Pizza, and everybody ate the cook. And then back in 2000, I had a magazine called Las Vegas Image, and at that time I was affiliated with the Orleans Hotel, and I would have those stars. Jerry Lewis, God rest his soul, was a very, very dear friend of mine. Jerry came to my house for dinner, Marty Allen, Rich Little, and the list was endless. Robert Goulet, all these people of yesteryear. They would come, they would sit down in my home, my house, they would eat, and then the following day I would do an interview, I would hit the tape, and I'd talk to them like you're talking to me.
Right.
And they were more comfortable, because most time when you interview somebody like me, I'm very comfortable because you're like my brother. Right. I feel like we're sitting down in my house.
Right.
Where other people, you interview them, they're very nervous. They don't know what to say, and you're constantly trying to pull something out of them.
Right. No, you're very special. You're an easy guy to talk with and to deal with because of so many things are coming in the near future. A lot of people have a lot of interest in your music, your food. Got people, some of the major hotels here in Vegas are looking at Mike Leonard because some of them have been there recently with me, and they've seen your show, that the food that they walk out of there like unbelievable. And the good things are going to be happening. Hopefully, in the very near future, we'll see Mike Leonardi and his band and restaurant on the Strip, or maybe off the Strip, but one of the major hotels that's so popular that have a lot of interest in Mike Leonardi, because Mike Leonardi is only one. And we have him here with us. We're honored to have him here with us, because not every day you get Mike Leonardi to come on the show to talk about his restaurant, his music, and his background. Now tell us a little bit more about your background. You came up from Philadelphia. You came out to Vegas back in the 70s.
Back in the 70s. That's when Vegas, Joe, was Vegas. I could never tell you how wonderful this town was then, where you would walk into a place. I'll give you a prime example. And if I was a pit boss at Caesars or the MGM or one of the major hotels, and here comes, hey, Joe Cortez, come on over. How many you with? 4 or 5 people? Here's it. I got your comp. Go see Don Rickles. Go see the Kim sisters. Go see the Treniers. What do you want? Something to eat? No problem. You got a comp. Today, everything's a card. The personal touch is gone in town. That's the reason why that the restaurant that I have does so well, because I run it the way it used to be run 50 years ago. When you walked in and you were somebody, you met somebody. I make sure that my wife and I, we hug everybody coming in, and we hug and kiss you when you leave. It's very, very important, because we go out all the time, different restaurants. You know what they say to me? What would you like to drink? What would you like to eat? Do you want dessert? Here's your check. There's the door. What we have is something completely different. That's why I don't turn the tables, because people want to relax. They want to have a great time. Like tonight, we are sold out to capacity. And the funniest thing, Joe, people call me and say, we are so excited. We can't wait to come. And I find that fascinating. So people that never been there, they hear about it. We can't wait to come. So what do? We feed them. We have fun with them. I sing to them. I make them have a great time. Now, one thing is important. I don't have a liquor license. I have is beer and wine. And the reason for that is because I'm under a cabaret license. If I had a bar with liquor, children would not be allowed in my establishment.
Right.
As you all know, I got a special phone that Santa gave me from the North Pole. You've seen that phone.
Yeah.
Every child that comes into that restaurant, every child from the age of 2 to 14, 15, even 16, they get a lollipop about this big and they get ice cream on Chef Mike. And I did that because if I had a liquor license, children would not be allowed. Through the grace of God, and I make the sign of the cross, I thank the Lord in heaven for the blessings. I've done over 17,000 lollipops I've given away in 4 years. That's over 17,000 children, people that took their families here. And that was the magic of Las Vegas, because 40 years ago, there was one casino that was never, ever in the red. And what was that casino, Joe? Do you remember? Could you tell me?
I do not know.
Circus.
Okay.
That was the only casino that was never in the red. They were always in the black.
Right, they had all the kids who come
Exactly. So people took their families. So Vegas said, you know something? We need to look 30 years down the line. And what happened was old Vegas was washed away, and then all the theme parks came in. So what do you see when you're on the Strip? You got people with the coaches, and you got babies, and you got... This is Vegas. It's a Disneyland for adults and also their children. My day, my son, God rest his soul, my son died last year in a car wreck. But when my boy was young, I couldn't even take him to a casino, Joe. There was no way. I had to put him, he would come in, and they had a little room those days with a couple of machines that you played pinballs. And I would take care of the security guards to leave him there all day, because I was the marketing from one of the hotels to make sure my boy was, had a place to have a little bit of fun. Today, these kids are running around through the casinos. They're all over the place. Right. You couldn't even take a picture them days.
Now, I know that at times I've been there, Mike, I've seen the families come there. They look at the kids. They come there, they're there, and you kind of like one-on-one with them, and you make them feel comfortable. They relax. The kids are dancing. They're happy. They're like family. They feel like they were family members. You make them feel like a family member. Not only the kids, but the adults as well.
I do my best. A few weeks ago, we was on a Friday night and singing, and there was about a family that was in front of me. And anytime there's a bunch of children, I always tell my wife, put them in front of me, so I can make them have a good time. And these kids were dancing and they were running around. So a guy at the side, he called me over. He says, Mike, he said, could you do me a favor? He says, could you make these kids sit down? And I looked at him. I said, listen to me. I love you. I thank you for coming to my restaurant. But if children bother you, this is the wrong place for you to come. Because my grandmother, we had a ball at her house. You can't make a kid sit down for 3 hours. It's impossible. As long as they don't get hurt. So let them dance. Let them sing. Let them have a good time. And that's why people bring their families. It's just like next week, we got a party at 32. The kid is 11 years old. He wanted to have his birthday party. I got to listen to Chef Mike. 11 years old, listen to what's songs of Sinatra, Louis Prima, that style. But they 11 years old.
But they love it.
Yeah.
They love it. I see all the kids that get into it, see them dancing to your music. I say, wow, this is amazing, because you don't see all this rap stuff that's going out today. That's the new stuff that I don't buy that. The rap music, it's not my stuff. I like the music from the golden years.
That was, and that's true, Joe. That's the name of it. It's that kind of style. Because years ago, I had competition. You had the Treniers. Remember the Treniers?
Yeah.
Was great. You had Louis Prima. You had the Vagabonds. You had the Goofers. You had great acts.
Chubby Checker.
Oh, you had everybody. These guys are gone. It's and luckily, thank God, for my age, I still got the power.
You got a little spark of the old flesh.
Without a question, how long it's going to last, I have no idea.
You're more energetic than anybody I've ever seen.
Well,
for your age.
Yes.
Besides me.
Well, yes, it's true.
I mean, this guy he's got the energy, like he must be drinking that Gerotol every morning.
Every morning.
And every night.
Every night. Then they not see the drum solo, because I play drums. And we do a tribute to Buddy Rich and a tribute to Gene Krupa. That era, that era of the 30s. And then my drummer, Mike DeBarry, we do a battle between me and him. He plays, I play. And you look at the audience and you just see, and I see
the sax player.
Steve Johnson is the ultimate player. Louis had Sam Butera. He's the last of that musician that sings, plays every single instrument, flute, clarinet, like Benny Goodman,
Yeah.
sax like Sam Butera, trumpet like Harry James, plays them all.
But now you play the you play the drums.
Well, drums is my main.
Now, tell me about the history behind the drums the actual drums that you have there now.
There's a set of drumsticks that are in a case. 1956, my grandfather put those drumsticks in my hand. I was 4. At the age of 10, I became a prodigy. At the age of 10, the way I play now is the way I played when I was 10 years old.
Wow.
And I traveled all over as a drummer. As the years went by, because when I came to Vegas, I used to sing and play behind the drums. What's that one? Is an act. There's a rock drummer does that. I forgot his name. Tom. I apologize. I can't remember the kid's name. And he would play and sing, and that's what I did. And I was doing a show at the Marina Hotel, and the girl at that particular time that I was going out with, she said to me, "Mike, you're a very handsome guy. Why don't you stand in the front and sing?" I went, "Oh, no. I'm happy." I had a crutch. I wanted to be behind them drums. So one night, I did the Shout of Your Smile. I'll never forget it. And the spotlight hit me, and I got off the drums, and I walked up in the front. And the guitar player was behind me, and I went, "The shadow of your smile." And I got into this song, and I'm singing, and there was about 230, 250 people in the audience, and you couldn't hear a pin drop. From that day on, I never went behind them drums again outside of a drum solo. I got off the drums, and I fronted it, and my career just skyrocketed.
I mean, your voice is unbelievable. You have a tremendous voice.
Changed at 60, Joe.
I mean, your voice changed.
Changed at 60. If I make you listen to my album, my records, I don't sound nothing like I sound today.
You sound like a kid before, and I sound like a real man.
Well, look at Sinatra. If you listen to Sinatra when he was in his 20s, and then listen to Sinatra when he was in his 50s, when he was with Count Basie.
Right.
Oh, forget about it.
Yeah.
Frank was a completely different style. You know, he had that. It was rich. My voice became rich. It became more solid.
Right.
More
mature.
Thank you. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah. Well, I mean, tell them the story about. It's a little joke, but I love it every time I hear it. I want you guys to hear it about his grandma when she was at the house. He came to the house. He knocked on the door. Tell us a little joke about that.
When they called me for my grandmother.
Yeah.
Well, you got to remember that I was 18 years old. I cooked all my life, and so my Uncle Frankie called me and he said, "Mike, get over to Grandmom's house." And I said, "What's the problem, Unc?" He says, "Just get in your car, come over." Now, my grandmother was 62 at the time. I was 18. I get in my car, go over. As I opened up the door and I looked at my grandmother's house, everybody that's in my menu, when the people that have not been there that are going to come, you'll see names like the Aunt Carmela, the Aunt Rosie, the Uncle Frank, the Coach of Pasquale. These are all my family members that are all long gone. I named the recipes after them because they taught me that recipe. So I honored my family by putting their name, as a stamp. I can't take credit for it. It was their recipe. I learned it from them. And I walked in and I looked at my Uncle Frank and I went like this to him. I said, "Well, what's going on?" He said, "Take it easy. Don't worry about it." And there comes my grandmother. And I looked at my grandmother. I said, "Grandmom," I said, "what's the matter?" But what I said in Italian was, "Gesadija." Gesadija in Italian means, "What is it?" And her eyes started to water. I thought somebody died, and I said to her in Italian, "Tutta de morta." That means that someone died. She says, "No, Michael, I have something for you." I said, "Grandma, what do you have for me?" She leaned into her little apron. She took out a wooden spoon that I have that's planted on my wall when I'm singing. I look at that spoon, and she went like this to me. So from the age of 18, I was the one that took over the family. She stepped down Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving, Palm Sunday, St. Joseph's Day. And she looked at me and gave me the greatest compliment. She said, "Michael, listen to Grandma. You're better than me." "Are you crazy, Grandma?" I said, "You're the greatest." She said, "God's given you a gift with your hands, with the food." And that's what I've done. Like I said, Joe, all my life, so many people, not celebrities and kings and queens, you name it. And that's what I love to do. I just love to cook. And I was blessed to be at my age now and to give something back. So when my records, you're never going to remember me. But that restaurant, I promise you will never, ever forget that place. So thanks to Joe Cortez, we're working together. That's it, baby.
Good-looking guy, too. I like the way you dress.
Oh,
when you come out of your dress, for top, to bottom.
Well, I try.
From head to toe. I mean,
you
I
got-
like your shoes, your sparkling shoes, diamonds, and your suits and your glitter. I mean, it's unbelievable.
No, this is my mother. Before she died, this is the Blessed Mother. My mother gave me this before she passed away. But there's one thing I have that Joe loves. He was sitting in it. He just loves. Tell him, Joe.
What's
My
that?
car.
Oh, he has a Rolls Royce, a 1992.
91.
1991 Rolls Royce. He keeps it in front of the restaurant with the white tires.
Gangster tires.
I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, when I come there with somebody, I know the car is open. So I open the door. I will show up, sit down, like if it was my car, sit down. But this is Mike's car. Beautiful Rolls Royce, the most beautiful Rolls Royce you want to see. I love it.
Yeah.
You took it the other day to the one of the hotels. We had a meeting. You were there, and the valet guy wanted to park the car, and you told him,
Oh, no.
No, I'll park it myself, right?
It's okay. I gave him 20. I said, here's a double sawbuck. Here's 20, and I'll give you another 20 on the way out. But I don't want nobody in that car. I'll drive it.
Yeah.
You know.
And I love that Rolls Royce is beautiful.
Well, it's a piece of history, Joe,
Yeah.
like me. Piece of history.
You bought it and you refurbished it. You got it up to
Oh, forget it.
you got it to where it's at now. It looks like brand new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even go into what I put into the car, but I love it. I love what I have, and it's great. And I'm just very, very excited. But I'm really excited about you, that we're working together to do something very spectacular, because there's nobody that I know that is, when I say a true champion, I mean, you got guys like Pacquiao and you guys like Muhammad Ali and great guys, but they don't realize you're like a part of a sauce. You are the foundation. A referee is so important in the ring. People don't realize how important that one man is, and what you have in your hand, that there's millions and millions of dollars that you are in really control of, because you're watching two guys that you're 5-6 feet away, that you got to make those right calls. And I admire that. I'll be honest with you, Joe.
Well, you know, as a referee, our job is to protect the fighter from taking unnecessary punishment. So I make sure that I do my duty as a referee, safety first, making sure these guys can, when they retire, they can have a normal life. A lot of fighters from back in the old days, they had that punch-drunk syndrome you hear about.
Yep.
And that's because they took too much punishment. The referees used to let them take too much punishment, get knocked down 4 or 5 times. There's no need for that. So, you know, the name of the sweet science is boxing. The sweet science of boxing is hit and don't get hit. And I want to make sure that if they're getting hit too much, that's when I come in to protect them. I've told Mike Tyson, on 8 occasions that I referee his fight, I've always told Mike, I know you're the baddest man on the planet in boxing, but I'm here to protect you. You know, if I see something wrong, I'll make sure that you or your opponent don't take unnecessary punishment. And that's what I do. Protect the fighter like if they're my own sons.
It's important, and a lot of people they look at the fighters, but again, the pressure. I think of you, the pressure that you have to make those right calls.
Yeah.
You know, you might have to stop a fight like years ago. Remember when Marciano fought Josie Joe Walker?
Yeah.
Remember when he opened him up and split his nose?
Yeah, with a big punch.
Today they would have stopped that fight.
Exactly.
There's no way that he would have continued. that.
Marciano, I mean, he got that big cut. That's why, you know, back in those days, the referee, there was no mandatory 8 count. You get dropped, as soon as you got up, your opponent right there in front of you, punching you. We do some safety measures in between now. Now you call a knockdown, you got to take the mandatory 8 count, and the opponent got to be in the furthest neutral corner before you can let him continue again. Back in the old days, you're down, you're up, he's right there, boom, hitting you. And that's why fighters will end up with old bad cauliflower ears and punch-drunk syndrome. Today, it's a little safer, even though we still have some deaths in boxing.
Let me ask you a question, Joe, if I may. You must have tremendous memorabilia.
I have quite a collection of memorabilia in my personal museum at home. I have a gym with a professional boxing ring, and I keep all the special memorabilia there. And it's really unbelievable. It's not open to the public, but hopefully one day soon we're talking about putting that museum on the strip, in the strip someplace, one of the hotels, along with your music and your restaurant would be great. But I mean, it's not about me, Mike. Today's show is about you. It's about the man that I admire, and I think that this man really is somebody to look up to as a person with a good heart, a good Italian guy. He's like a brother from another mother, and we have a lot of fun together, you know. Your beautiful wife is just adorable as they come. Beautiful, sweet with everybody.
She's the best. She's a great cook too, Joe. Don't let her fool you.
Yeah. And I see your staff there. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
The staff you selected a staff just right because every person in there is very loving, caring, the best attention in the world.
We try our best. You know, again, and it all stems from my grandmother on the holidays. You know, I would look at her and we would 25, 30 people on Christmas Eve night, and she would walk around to make sure every plate is full. And we say, oh, we can't eat another thing. And she's throwing another dish of pasta in front of you.
Don't forget, my viewers out there, the restaurant is called My Mother's House. It's here in Sun City, in Las Vegas, the entertainment capital of the world and the food capital of the world. When you go to My Mother's House, you're sure to have the best entertainment, the best dinner you never forget for the rest of your life. People come and repeat it, guests over and over again because it is the best place. My Mother's House in Sun City. Mike Leonard, our guest today, entertainer, singer, you got it all. Good looks.
No, I'm decent done. What are you talking about?
Take care. We'll see you next week. God bless. Fair but firm, Mike Leonard.